There we are. Right, so we're going to have a chat with Danny Felton, who is at the Aldridge Airfield. He's here with Mark Travers and some other chap whose name I don't know actually. Who? Ray? Brian. Okay, they're with Brian. Actually, I was very rude of me, I didn't ask him his name. And these chaps are flying control line. Now, some people call it string line, but it's actually control line as far as I'm aware, unless you want to correct me on that.
No, control line.
And Danny here writes for the Scale part of the RCM&E. So I went, right, grab it, new chap. You're doing an interview whether you like it or not. And this is really just, because I always build stuff. I show people how to build stuff. So does Danny. But I've never had the chance to sort of grab him and say, right. So this is just to expand the knowledge base of control line flying. I'm pretty sure if I interview Danny more, we go into other things. But at the moment, it's control line, and you'll see after this Danny having to go round in circles, getting dizzy. So Danny, thank you very much for giving me your time here, chap. So do you just want to run through us what control line is?
Yeah. Basically, control line was created in the 50s and was kind of followed on from free flight modelling, and is a very basic form of aero modelling. It's one of the earliest forms. It provides you with a very direct feel to aero modelling. With radio control or other forms of modelling, your feel is through a transmitter or a box with sticks and stuff like this. But with control line, or as our American friends would call it, U-control, you have a handle and the lines that go out to the model, and there is line tension between that handle and the model, and it's due to centripetal force, and the speed of the model alters that pull. So it's a very direct way of aero modelling. You can feel what's happening. So in the video that you'll either see in a minute, or you've already seen, the model, when the wings flip up and sort of wobble with the gusts of wind, it brings the model in towards the circle, and that's when your line tension really drops, and that's where your heart rate goes up and you start panicking. So it's a very direct form of aero modelling, and you can feel what's happening with your model all the time, immediately. So it's very good. Originally, it was all started with petrol engines, then it went on to glow engines in the 50s, and eventually we've come full circle, and now we're flying them electric as well.
Yeah. I had when I was a child, my brother who was in the army, he brought back from Hong Kong a Cox 049 engine attached to a P40 kitty hook control line. I could never get the thing to start.
No, a lot of us started with those Cox, learner flyer type things. I think mine was a PT-19, yellow with blue wings, I think it was. But again, it was you kneeled in front of it and tried to get it going for several hours, then it burst into life, cut your finger, and you gave up.
Yes. But I had the PT-19 as well. It was blue with yellow wings.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I had two. I never got them to fly.
No, I didn't either. And they were on string lines as well.
Yes, very short ones, as I remember.
Yeah, and they stretched.
And they had a little yellow
handle.
Yellow handle, like this. Yeah.
But it's a very direct form of aero modelling, and it's still well supported nowadays. Brian, who you might see on the video, flies Carrier, which is control line but with an arrestor hook, and they have a model of an aircraft carrier at the side of the circle, exactly the line length away. How
big's this model of the Carrier?
It's about 12 foot long.
Really?
Yeah, it's similar size that the model can land on it.
Okay.
And take off from it. And they have, I think, 6 lines. I can't remember how many lines they have that they have to land on, and if they catch the first wire, I think they get more points than if they catch the last. Then you've got scale control line, which is where you have to fly strict maneuvers. You have aerobatic control line, which is what we call stunt, and that's where you have, again, a set maneuvers that you have to fly, like loops, inverted, clover leaves, figure of 8, overhead 8s. There's all sorts of maneuvers. That's really well supported. You see them at Buckminster quite a lot, over in the corner of the field.
Yeah.
You've got combat, which is great fun to watch. This is where we use flying wings, very, very short fuselage. So the engine is mounted on the leading edge of the model, and the tail is the trailing edge of the model, and it will loop on a sixpence. And they fly 2 of these in a circle together, and they with great big long streamers that they tow. And the idea is that you chop
the streamer off.
The streamer, not completely off. You need to cut it, so you break a bit off.
Yeah.
And that's a point.
So one who has the shortest streamer loses.
I think it's how many 3 cuts? I can't remember. Mark, who's in the
Yeah,
background,
we got
he's
Mark
flown
Travers out of shot here. He's a bit shy at the moment. This is the guy who launched my P51 very badly. But for those who want to go back and have a look.
Combat is another form of it. They also have speed, which is quite good, where these things get up to, and I'm not sure what the current record is for propeller driven IC speed, but it's a couple 100 miles an hour, somewhere around
Wow,
there.
that's fast.
And these are flown on a single line rather than our 2 lines of steel wire. They're flown on a single wire, and they have a bobbin that slides up and down the wire, which twists the wire and gives them up elevator or down elevator by twisting.
Really?
I've never tried it. It looks madness to me.
It sounds like witchcraft to me.
Yeah, and they all fall over at the end of the flight, because you imagine 200 miles an hour going round and round on 70-foot lines is a bit bonkers.
Wow, okay.
Then
How long is this line you were using here today?
Today we were using 52-foot line.
50 feet, okay.
Normally we'd fly on 65 or 70. For scale, it's usually the longer the line the better, but when the wind's high then we shorten the lines down.
Yeah.
But as you'll see on the video, when you fly short lines in wind, you have to fly fast, and it makes me dizzy. And I supposedly know what I'm doing, but I really haven't got a clue. So longer lines, it slows everything down.
Okay.
Models flies at the same speed, it's just you don't go round and round quite so much.
Yeah.
So you have speed, and then there's what we call team racing, and Mark used to do team racing. This is where you get three pilots in the circle at the same time, and the models are positioned at intervals all the way around the edge, 120 degrees. Thank you for the calculator in his head. And they all launch at the same time, and it's most number of laps in 100 laps, fastest time, 100 laps fastest time. And they have to overtake over the top, so you'll see them all huddled in a little ball, the 3 pilots, spinning round and round.
Does one have to duck to let the other one go over?
You're supposed to raise your hand and fly over the top of the other guy, or they can duck down if they know they're going to be overtaken. But you overtake over. It's quite important that you don't get that wrong.
I've got to see that. I've got to see that.
There's lots of YouTube videos on what they call team racing.
Team racing.
Team racing, and it is brilliant fun to watch. It is quite exciting. And they have pit stops.
So what we do have, we've got a couple of models here. I'm going to pick one up. This one is a really pretty model here. We put them away from each other because we're having to sit really close because it's windy. We got Mary Poppins on an umbrella flying past us. It's that windy, which is why we've only got a short video of the flights. But if I gently, hopefully, pick this up. Okay. I don't know if we can get this into shot. Do you want to take that?
Yeah, can do.
If you break it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So this one is an electric Ringmaster in this case. It's a stunt model from the 50s. Designed by Matt Kanye. And this one has a brushless electric motor at the front. In this case it's a Turnigy 3530 1400 kV, and it's flying off of a 3S LiPo, and that will give me about 6 minutes flight time. You'll see there's an ESC on this side to control the motor speed. Underneath the ESC, buried in the fuselage, is a little tiny 1 or 2 channel receiver, and the aerial is fed down the inside of the fuselage, buried in a tube. This one is controlled by RC, which is a recent
so what you mean is that using the radio control with the throttle only?
Yeah, to control the throttle. In scale control line you can use that same radio gear to control other functions like flaps, retracts, throttle, all sorts of other bits and pieces, but you're not allowed to alter the primary flight controls with the radio. With control line, the elevator must be controlled by the wires, the lines, the tension on the lines. So pushing and pulling on the handle, twisting your wrist, alters the elevator and the pitch of the aircraft. But the radio gear can be used to alter the secondary functions like flaps, retracts,
Okay.
stuff like that. So this one's electric, but it all started that same model with this one, which is this is again a Ringmaster from the 1950s, Matt Canier design, but this one's got a Fox 35 at the front, and this is typically the engine we would have used in the 50s and 60s. It's almost a vintage engine now, so you can get them on eBay and auctions and stuff like that. So quite the motor for this.
This is otherwise known as IC, internal combustion.
Sorry, yes.
Which is the dark side.
Yes, this involves a lot of praying in front of it and hoping that it starts.
Yes, and stinking your fuel.
And yes,
carrying heavy batteries.
Yes. But there you go. That's probably control line in a nutshell.
Okay, so how difficult is it if you build one, or say you've bought a control line and you're a novice? How difficult is it to learn how to get this to fly where you're not taking it home in the bin bag?
It involves a lot of crashing usually.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, behind us, which you may be able to see, we've got some very long grass in the middle of the airfield here, and ideally what you want, or the way we learned when I was younger, we flew behind a hangar at Sherburne-in-Elmet, and we had a diesel powered model that could barely go up and down. It basically went round and round. That was about its limit. It wouldn't loop, it wouldn't do any aerobatics. The wing was made from a sheet of 1/4 inch balsa.
Oh yeah.
With two triangles cut out and then turned round and then glued on to form a trailing edge, and then you sanded the 1/4 balsa to a wing section, and then you just stuck a fuselage onto the side of it and a little diesel on the front, and we'd fly that over the long grass with this diesel on there. And a diesel doesn't require anything to start it other than you flicking it.
Yeah.
The pressure ignites the fuel, the compression ignites the fuel. So in this field behind the hangar, we would literally flick this thing into life. We'd fly half a lap, smash it into the ground or something like that, because it was over long grass, and because we used these old Keelcraft props that you used to boil to make them flexible back in the 70s, you'd never break a prop either. So you'd run over to it, your mate would pick it up, flick it again, get it going again, he'd throw it, and we'd do another half lap before it ended in the ground. And we did this, and after 2 or 3 hours of doing that, before you run out of fuel, you usually got the hang of it, and you could go round and round.
So you could learn to do this in a day?
Oh, easily, yeah. And once you've got the hang of it, it's fairly straightforward from that point.
Yeah, a bit like riding a bike.
Yeah, and then if you want to do aerobatics and combat and all this other stuff, then it becomes quite difficult again.
Yeah.
But to basically go round and round, as you'll see on the video, that's fairly standard stuff. You'd certainly learn that in a day.
Okay, no, that's interesting. Because a lot of people who are on YouTube, including you, because you have your channel, don't you? The Devil's in the Detail.
Yeah.
This guy, Devil's in the Detail. Oh, by the way, Cliff, if you're jealous, you should be. So, please check out the Devil's in the Detail. You'll see Danny Felton on there doing his thing. And I've only met this guy today, and in a very short time, he's obviously a lot more intelligent than I am. Mind you, most people are, apart from Mark. But
where you got that from?
Mark. So, please go and check out the Devil's in the Detail, and you're going to learn a thing or two. And we've had a chat about building, and he's come up with some ideas that I hadn't even thought of. So you're going to have a great time doing that. So can I just say thank you, Danny, for
you're more than welcome.
Giving me your time. And now the wind's died down, he's probably going to fly again.
Yep.
Well, I've only got the one shot really of these guys flying, because it's so windy here. I mean, I don't know how fast it is in miles an hour, but it's gusty. So every time I try and do interviews with people, it's always blowing a gale, which is what I had down at the BMFA the one time. Okay, well, thank you again. And guys, go and check him out, Devil's in the Detail, and if you don't, I know where you live. All right.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Now that's cool.